He banged his little gavel and said, "Order." I told him the only thing out of order was his toupee.
This is ridiculous. I don't have time for this. Evelyn Ashford, 46, squirms deeply on the phone and speaks to the bench in a way that feels out of the ordinary. Judge Frank Caprio puts his pen down and asks Mrs. Ashford to put away the phone and address the charges. "I'm here, that should be enough." Her lawyer, Richard Vance, stands by her. "Your Honor, my client is prepared to pay all fines and resolve this matter as soon as possible." "Mr. Vance, this is not a payment platform, so please sit down and listen carefully." After a moment of hesitation, Caprio taps his pen once, prompting Officer Dantes to confirm the body cam audio cue. "Yes, thank you." "If you're over 50, subscribe and Miss Judge Caprio will be there to expose your influence." The clerk takes the lead. The Commonwealth v. Evelyn Marie Ashford case involves charges of unlawful use of a disabled parking area and defamation. The parking enforcement officer, Leah Romano, was cited on Tuesday at 9:17 for verbally intimidating the officer. "I'm curious, Mrs. Ashford, if you were given the 2 summons notices that were mailed to your home. My assistant is responsible for correspondence management." "Did you receive them? I suspect it did. Miss Reyes, do you have delivery confirmation?" The clerk nods. "Yes, thank you. There are 2 certified notices, both signed for the defendant's home address." Caprio flips a page. Additionally, there is an explanation. "Parking enforcement gave prior notice 9 months ago. Mrs. Ashford blocked access for 2 hours during a charity gala, which is not considered illegal, but for the sake of consideration." "What transpired in that particular incident, Mrs. Ashford?" Evelyn shrugged it off. "It's likely that there was a misinterpretation by the volunteer. The report indicates that you informed the enforcement officer. Can you identify the person on the museum wing? This is not the punishment for today." "It's a recurring pattern. Richard Vance tries harder. My client realizes she could have done better and is prepared to pay the fines and move on." "Mr. Vance, paying a fine is solely focused on card swiping, and I am curious about what occurred." "On Tuesday morning, I parked in front of a medical building on Elmwood Avenue and waited for 15 minutes to consult with Ashford." Evelyn's exhale was audible. "Upon my return, I discovered a ticket on my windshield. I removed it because I didn't think it was valid. You were parked in an area for disabled individuals." "It wasn't being used. That's not the concern. You parked in a spot marked with the international symbol of access, admittedly. Although it was unoccupied, accessibility is not part of the scheduled schedule." Mrs. Ashford clarified that it's not scheduled because of disability. "I would like to read one line from a written statement submitted by disabled veteran Thomas Bennett, who arrived at the building at 9:32 h.m., and my wheelchair lift was unable to deploy due to the vehicle obstructing the access aisle. Evelyn gave me another hand, which he could have waited for." Richard Vance disapproves. "Your Honor, we're introducing a non-gerring issue to the citation. The denial of access, according to counsel, is entirely germane. Your client's blocking of the only accessible space caused Bennett to be unable to enter a medical building. This is not inconsequential." Caprio directs his gaze towards the officer standing near the side wall. "Please read your story carefully, Officer Romano." "At 9:17 a.m., I stumbled upon a white luxury sedan in front of Elmwood Medical Center. The space was designated for disabled individuals and had appropriate signs and pavement markings. There was no visible disabled placard or license plate on the vehicle. I cited the officer and put it on my windshield at 9:33 a.m. Later, I caught the driver, who was later identified as Evelyn Ashford. Take off the car, remove the ticket from the windscreen, dismantle it, and throw it away in a dumpster. I approached and confronted her. She said, 'This is ludicrous. Who am I to blame?' When I explained the citation, the woman informed me that her foundation was the financial sponsor of half of this city." Caprio nods. "Did Officer Romano think that was an act of intimidation?" "Yes, Your Honor." Evelyn leans forward. "That was a statement." I was irritated. Let's hear the conversation. Officer Dantes, please listen to the body cam audio. A brief static hiss was heard, followed by a sharp and clipped voice from Evelyn. My foundation provides funding for half of this city, and you're my own. Caprio lets it be. I'm curious, Mrs. Ashford informed me that you are married to Marcus Ashford, the man who established as a chief and has made numerous contributions to Providence, such as in municipal projects. Can you confirm this? What was your intention behind saying, my foundation funds half of this city? Didn't you know, Officer Romano? Your honor is as a form of intimidation. It's an assertion of ownership of. Our public procedure. Stats are still relevant, Mrs. Ashford. Caprio approaches his clerk. Miss Reyes, did you have any prior communication with this court regarding this matter before the hearing? The clerk reads a record. Yes, thank you. Ashford Foundation Public Relations has received 3 calls and 1 email, all of which are associated with phone numbers and addresses with respective timestamps. The first call was made at 9:54 a.m., while the second call came at 10:22 as well. The third call was made at 10:41 a.m., and an email was received at the same time. The email referred to the Foundation's leadership as Quiet Resolution. The clerk states that the Body Foundation's leadership has asked for a silent resolution to case 24-10003 before the public hearing. The Foundation supports initiatives within the city, so we would appreciate any guidance on what to do next. My client is not responsible for communications from her husband's foundation, which is prejudiciously overruled. When documented, the pressures on process are relevant, and I'm not accusing anyone of any criminal offenses. I'm clarifying the facts. Evelyn takes turns in her seat. I didn't authorize those calls. Maybe not, but someone thought they would be helpful. Can you provide a timeline? The email was sent at 9:17 a.m. and the duration was 61 minutes. The initial phone call was made at 9:54 a.m., but someone had already rushed in. Caprio glances at the clerk once more. Is he familiar with Mr. Is Thomas Bennett willing to give a concise response over the phone? He is, as usual, present. A calm and composed voice permeates the room. Thank you for your loyalty. I'm a disabled veteran who uses my wheelchair and was scheduled to receive physical therapy at Elmwood Medical Center on Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. At 9:32, I arrived to find a vehicle with no placard in the disabled parking area and an access aisle that was blocked. Unfortunately, my wheelchair lift could not be activated. I missed the first half hour of therapy, which was dedicated to pain management techniques. By the time I found alternative parking and transferred, I had to reschedule it. Mrs. Ashford makes a subtle remark as Evelyn mutters something under her breath. Caprio catches on. I professed to be there for 15 minutes, but it resulted in a veteran being denied access to medical care. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Your statement is recorded. The queue concludes. Caprio proceeds to retrieve another copy. Miss Reyes, these are the 2 summons notices sent to Mrs. Ashford's abode. Can you confirm delivery? Your answer is honor. The original notice was sent on September 18th and signed on October 4th. E. Ashford and E. Ashford are both signed, with my assistant confirming for deliveries while Evelyn's jaw muscles tighten. Did you have knowledge of them, right? I don't personally inspect every mail piece. Mrs. Ashford, it's impossible to delegate responsibility for 2 certified notices spread over 3 weeks. The Ashford Foundation's reputation in municipal philanthropy necessitates careful consideration, and we request that the remaining portion of this proceeding be handled with discretion to prevent unnecessary problems. Mr. Vance, the verdict is in the light of the evidence. Staying true to the facts, Caprio stares at Evelyn with a calm expression. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, yes or no. Did you park in an area for the disabled? Did you discard the citation? Yes. Did your foundation's contributions be invoked and you informed Officer Romano, you are my property? Evelyn shivers, that's not a no. Honor your words, this is a form of punishment. Evelyn's voice lifts. My family has contributed millions to this city. We provide financial support for social programs and community infrastructure. If not for the Ashford Foundation, your municipal programs would be ineffective. Mrs. It's worth noting that charity is not a means of obtaining exemptions. Instead, it should have some significance. Are you aware of the amount we donate each year? Our tax base benefits the court system. Donors like us contributed funds to the building's renovation. Richard Vance stands poised. Your Honor, my client is I own you. The words are inarticulate. In just 5 seconds, philanthropy became a form of proof of debt and failed, with no one exhibiting any movement or speaking. Evelyn gazes at the bench, unaware of what she said, while Richard Vance's face appears pale and Officer Romano remains seated by the wall. Caprio then speaks in a subdued tone. There is no ownership in this courtroom belonging to Mrs. Ashford. I am not concerned about the outcome or the process involved. All 4 charges have been proven by the evidence. Body cam audio from Officer Romano, parking lot photos, the destroyed summons, 2 confirmed delivery summonses, and the documented timeline of Foundation contacts are all credible. Mrs. Ashford denied a disabled veteran access to medical care. She revoked a summons. She threatened an officer by citing her Foundation's donations. Caprio skips bail. The court does not consider wealth, Foundation endowments, or philanthropic profiles when evaluating cases. Charity is not a form of currency. Your donations are not equivalent to immunity, and public trust is not a form of charitable write-off. He turns the page. I also take note of the warning from 9 months ago. The warning was educational, not retaliatory. You were advised once that access rights cannot be overridden by civic contributions. However, you chose not to comprehend that message. Consequences educate individuals on hidden topics. The total amount of fines is $850. Unauthorized access to a disabled area is $300. Angry officers are also subjected to $300 in verbal intimidation. $250 administrative fees and contempt is $250. Unless you complete a restorative accountability plan in the nick of time, I won't be able to contribute part of the $450. If you fulfill the requirement, the portion is remitted, but if you don't, it is reinstated and you pay the entire amount. The plan mandates written apologies to Officer Leah Romano and Thomas Bennett, rather than statements created by your Foundation's communications team. Express your sincere apologies for your actions and learning. You will be required to meet them in person if you so choose. If you reject the court summons you to mail the documents, you will receive confirmation. Additionally, 200 hours of community service at the Rhode Island Food Bank and 100 hours spent assisting with accessibility compliance audits. Both organizations will submit attendance logs, with no mention of press releases or photo opportunities. Additionally, you will not be involved in the creation of 3 public service announcements about accessible parking and the separation of philanthropy from privilege. Scripts will be court-ruled, and your name and Foundation will remain anonymous. You will be required to complete a course on ethical governance that outlines the boundaries between charitable giving and public process in plain language. The court will issue certificates for successful completion. Additionally, you will write an essay on the subject of wealth and service, which is 1,000 words long. It's not a press release. Caprio puts his pen down. Mercy is not an official statement, it is an unambiguous pledge. Moreover, I am presenting the following proposals on record to the Municipal Court Administration, the Office of the Mayor, and City Council. 1. Establish a weekly ex parte influence log for all cases. This will ensure that any attempts to communicate with foundations, donors, or their representatives will be recorded and made public. 2. Enforce mandatory recusal procedures for donor next case situations. It is necessary to report any action taken against a defendant who is connected to significant municipal donors, and staff must either recuse themselves or obtain supervisor approval. Furthermore, it is advisable to create and pass statutory legislation that clarifies that philanthropic donations do not give precedence in municipal proceedings. Moreover, the creation of guidelines for disabled bay tow priority should be established. Cars that are not authorized to use in accessible areas should prompt immediate action. Create a PSA program sponsored by the court called Privilege versus Public Trust that includes testimony from disabled residents and law enforcement officials. If you miss Judge Caprio, this model will help distinguish between giving and receiving. Over the next 14 weeks, Evelyn completes the plan in a step-by-step manner. In the first week, she writes the apology, but the court dismisses it as too formal, which has been edited by counsel. She tries again in her own words. Better yet, Officer Romano agrees to meet her at a non-objectionable location. The conversation is brief, awkward, and necessary. He tells her, "You sold my job by referring to me." It's not. Thomas Bennett accepts the written apology but denies the meeting in person. He sends an email to the court stating, "What she took from me, that is enough." During weeks 2 to 12, Evelyn records 200 hours across both organizations. She manages inventory, assists with distribution days, and handles intake calls. The absence of cameras means no foundation staff. According to a coordinator, her service is more about showing up than being recognized. At the Access Coalition, she participates in accessibility audits, learns about the engineering behind ramp slopes and doors, and attends community feedback sessions. A wheelchair user tells her, "Access isn't an act, it's infrastructure." Week 10, she notes that the first drafts of the PSAs mention community partners and civic leadership. The court sends them back, and she records them with no branding, foundation references, or plain text. The ethical governance course lasts for 4 weeks, but she successfully completes it without any issues. The ledger is straightforward, with 200 hours logged, 3 PSAs approved, and 1 lesson learned service ranking higher than average. Should Judge Caprio be required to complete mandatory service for intimidation cases involving financial status, according to Officer Romano? After 14 weeks since the initial hearing, Evelyn is back in court, but without any legal representation, foundation staff, or help. Caprio scrutinizes the documents submitted, such as the apologies, PSA recordings, course certificate, and written response. "Mrs. Ashford, I've read your reflection. I would like to hear your thoughts on the matter. No ready word. Evelyn, I thought wealth meant having access. I thought that my family's foundation was the source of funding for programs, so I could park anywhere, disregard tickets, and skip court dates. However, I didn't realize that giving money does not guarantee exemptions since wealth is a responsibility." She pauses. "When I told the Officer Romano that I own you, I was trying to use philanthropy. I didn't do that because public servants are there to serve the community, not individual donors. I didn't just block Mr. Bennett's access, I blocked his medical care. What did you learn from Officer Romano? That enforcement is not negotiable. I made an effort to compel my foundation's job to be dependent on my approval, which I believe is a form of corruption. What did you learn from the Access Coalition? You were informed that accessible areas are not courtesy parking. The presence of engineered infrastructure, such as ramp angles, clearance widths, and transfer zones, meant that blocking the space didn't just result in delaying someone, but also eliminated their access." Caprio nods in agreement. "You shifted your focus from wealth to obligation." He signs a form. "I'm remitting $400 of the remaining amount. You have not yet paid off the $450 you owe, and will be required to pay it in installments over a period of 6 months. Public trust is not subject to taxation. Ashford, thank you for your honor. I cannot express my gratitude for the individuals who taught me something that I couldn't." After 6 months, the policies begin to take effect, and the weekly Expart influence log is now accessible, with 4 donor-related contact attempts recorded in the first quarter. All activities are conducted transparently, as per the new guidelines. The confidence of court staff in remaining neutral has been improved. The City Council has unanimously enacted a donor firewall statute. Major philanthropic families are flagged for enhanced oversight in all municipal courts. Mandatory recusal procedures are enforced. Any staff contacted by foundation representatives require supervisor approval. Citywide, priority is given to disabled tows. Unauthorized vehicle clearance times decrease by 52%. Complaints from disabled residents are reduced significantly. The court PSA program commences with the title Privilege versus Public Trust, and Evelyn's recordings are distributed to 43 schools without any promotion or publicizing. Nevertheless, they are utilized and considered satisfactory. A veteran with a disability sends an email to the court, expressing gratitude for the PSA he watched, which highlighted the importance of infrastructure and convenience for his grandson. Caprio wrapped up his final case on Friday afternoon. Prior to his departure, he jots down a solitary principle on an old note card and attaches it to the bulletin board positioned behind his bench. Public offices are not sold, but rather belong to service. He ponders about Evelyn Ashford, Officer Romano, and Thomas Bennett waiting in his car while medical appointments were lost. He locks the door and turns off the light. This is a staged drama for storytelling and education, not for legal advice or journalism.